Hello, everybody. Happy marvelous Monday. I hope you are well. I hope that your weekend was great. I hope that this day has treated you well. Listen, before I get started, I just want to say that people and families who have been impacted by the storms, the rain, you all are in my thoughts and my prayers. It's been so devastating to see so much that's going on throughout the country. So today we are talking about evictions and why evictions are important, why eviction matters. And so today's segment is primarily for tenants. If you are a tenant, a residential tenant, or if you know someone who is, this segment is for you. Listen, we are coming out of the eviction moratorium at some point. Some jurisdictions are gearing up, but as of today, tenants are not able to be evicted. Okay, but evictions are coming. So I just want to share some tips and some information for tenants so that you will know and understand the impact that an eviction can have on you. But I also want landlords to listen in to the information that I'm sharing with tenants so that you'll be knowledgeable, so that you will be aware of what you can or cannot do. All right. So before I get into that, let me just say hello. Thank you so much. I'm Karissa Span, the landlord and tenant coach. This is what I do each and every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I share information to help landlords and tenants, to help property managers, property owners, and those who are looking to get into the industry of property management or people who are looking to rent. All right. So I share information, I share laws, I share updates, I share tips, but at no point in time do I give legal advice. So my only goal is to provide information that's clear, that's understandable. If I share something today, and if you have a question, go ahead and drop it in the comment section so that I can see it and I will definitely respond to it. All right. If you're watching the replay, let me say thank you so much for watching the replay. I hope that something that I share today will be helpful. I hope that will add value to you or someone that you know. So if you're on YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe button. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and like my Facebook page. And please share this if you find any information I share today. If it's helpful, share it with somebody else because sharing is caring. All right. And I do want to acknowledge some people who I see here. Hey, Derek. I see some of my students are tuning in. Hi, Miss Butler. Hello, Miss Hughes. Good evening, sis. So glad that you are joining me today. All right. So we are talking about evictions. All right. Here is what I want residential renters to know about evictions. It is public records. All right. It's a public record, it's public information. All right. So that means that if you're ever evicted, it could potentially prevent you from renting again. All right. So it could be on you, it could impact you 5 up to 7 years. It really just depends on um, the property owner, the residential manager, whoever is part of that application process. There's a criteria that landlords should be putting in place to say who they want as a renter when it comes to evictions. Because here's the thing, usually landlords don't want someone in their rental property who possess or pose a red flag. All right. So an eviction is an automatic red flag. All right. And so this is why I share information for landlords and tenants to try to work together. If you owe money, to try to come up with the money to try to find resources in the community. I've shared week after week that resources are available in rental communities throughout the United States. I'm trying to prevent evictions from happening, but of course, I can't save the world. Good evening, Cloudy. Thank you so much for tuning in, beautiful. All right. So if you are in a situation where you are behind, you are delinquent on your rent, try to get the help. Try to get the help, try to get the finances, try to get the funding because funding is still available. Okay. Funding is available, but here's the thing, it may not always be available. All right. It may not always be available. So don't take for granted. And I hear a lot of tenants, they're saying, oh, well, I'm not paying my rent. Screw my landlord. Okay. Well, I promise you that if you are concerned about your credit, if you're concerned about a roof over your head, that's not really the attitude that you want to take when you're depending on someone to provide housing, okay? A good landlord will conduct a background check, all right? And many landlords who have been following me on Facebook or YouTube as I do these weekly lives, right? They know that conducting a background check is of great importance. So please be concerned about your credit. Please be concerned about having that negative credit record, because landlords, even if, let me just back up a little bit. Even if a tenant, and I realize that I have some tenants who will just not pay the rent and they'll just up and move with no advance warning. I get it. I get it. But even in that, at some point, you will have to face the fact that you have that bill with that previous landlord. Now, here's the thing. If credit is ever important to you, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year, or years to come, if credit is of any importance to you, I promise you that an eviction on your record will not go away. Okay? Now, landlords can also report that to collection agencies. All right. So it can show up on your credit report. Yes, you can just up and move. Okay. If you want to skip, that's fine. But landlords, by law, are allowed to report it to collection agencies. So please don't think that you can completely get away with it. All right. But let me just also share this, because here is what some landlords may not be aware of. Some tenants, okay, have evictions on their record, but they have their records sealed so that it doesn't show up. So when you pull that information, it may not show up if that record is sealed. All right. So I want landlords to hear this. All right. And this is why background checks are so important. Hey, Tanika, thank you for sharing, sis. Happy marvelous Monday to you. Hope that you had a fantastic day. Listen, evictions are real. I cannot stress this enough. This is like my third or fourth segment talking about evictions. It's happening. It's going to be a tsunami of evictions. Okay. So as a tenant, all right, try to get the money to avoid the eviction. Or if you can't come up with the money to avoid being evicted, just voluntarily leave the property. And that's okay. Just work it out with the landlord. Make arrangements so that you don't have to get that ding or that red flag on your account. Okay. You do not want that. I promise you that is not what you want. I had a young lady, true story. I had a young lady today. I went out, I conducted an inspection, and this is have you ever seen the type of people who they just wake up intentionally on the wrong side of the bed every single day? All right. Well, yeah, this is the type of tenant that I dealt with today. So I went to conduct the inspection to see what repairs are needed so I can let the owners know. I don't own that property. I just manage it for my client. So I showed up today to meet the contractor. I was not scheduled to do the inspection. So I was not dressed or prepared to do the inspection. But when a contractor calls me and they say, well, Karissa, this tenant is intentionally not cooperating. She refuses to allow us to come in to do work. That means I have to take time from out of my schedule, out of my day, if I don't have staff that can go. So I went to meet the contractor to conduct the inspection for needed repairs. All right. This tenant she's complained about everything under the sun. If the light bulb blew out, which is technically her responsibility, according to the terms of her rental lease agreement that she signed. Okay. If the smoke detector battery needs to be replaced, she's complaining about that. And although these are items that she's responsible for taking care of, she complain. When the contractors are working in her home, she's always complaining. She's trying to tell the contractors how to do their work. It's to the point where it is a task just trying to get somebody to go into the place because nobody wants to deal with that. And so I had a conversation with her to let her know, like, listen, the owners, they're trying to make the repairs, but she intentionally will try to do things so that the work is not being done, maybe so that she can report, oh, well, the owners, they're not making repairs, or whatever her angle is. I don't know. So today we're conducting the inspection because she's complained that work needs to be done, although she refused to allow contractors in. So I show up with a smile. Hey, Miss Tenant, I'm here. Listen, we got to get this work done. So I need you to let the contractors do their job. So she wants to dictate where we go in the house. I said, listen, we're not here for that. We're here for this. So let me go with the contractors so that I can see and show them what they must do. And she insisted that we go to another part of the home, right? So I said, listen, I only want to get the work done for you. So either you allow us to come in, let me take a look at what we need to do, or we can come back another day. Then she turned around, she says, oh, well, I'm leaving anyway. Now, usually I would comment to say, well, you have to give us a 30-day notice. But in this case, if she left tomorrow, I promise you I wouldn't be sad. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I'm just being honest. And sometimes you come across those people, right, as tenants, but then also landlords. Sometimes you'll come across a landlord who's just a bad seed. I had another client who she was, and she was the owner of the rental property, but she was not a people person. And so it was always a clash. She was like always clashing with all of her tenants. And I was kind of like, oh, you can't, you really can't attract bees with, vinegar. You could attract them with, just be nice. You could attract bees with honey and not vinegar. Don't be so mean. Don't be so sour. But what do I know, right? Everybody don't wake up saying happy Monday, happy Tuesday. Every day is not a happy day. So, but anyway, this client of mine who owns a rental property, she owns several properties, and she was always mean. She was always nasty to the tenants, to the point where she had some really great tenants, but nobody wanted to rent from her. So she did have to evict a couple, but the last one, she thought she was going to be able to get an eviction, and it backfired. So here's why I'm sharing this information, because again, evictions matter. Hey, Miss Quick, happy marvelous Monday. You said there's no evidence. Absolutely. Hello, Lynette. Thank you for tuning in from Charlotte. Charlotte, North Carolina is in the building. That's right. Lady in red. That's me today. Ow. So, but here is what I want landlords and tenants to know. Evictions, it impacts the rental community. Because like I said, when the eviction goes on a record, a tenant may move on to another place, and that may make it hard for the next landlord. So as a landlord, you should always conduct background checks for your renters, for all of your applicants, for all of your prospects. Make sure that you have a checklist in place to conduct your background check. Your background check should be inclusive of evictions, and make sure that it is a nationwide check. Don't just do a check in that particular city. All right. Do a nationwide check of evictions, because it will show up. All right. And landlords, please don't feel like because a tenant has skipped, and a lot of them have, a lot of them will. All right. Even if a tenant skips, if you have their information, all right, you get this at the application stage. You don't wait until they move in. You get their ID, you get their birth certificate, you get their social security card, you get their proof of income. Here's why this is important. And on the application, I'm going to drop this gem, and usually I don't give too much because this is what I teach. This is what I coach in my my landlord master strategy course, which is a 6-week online training program that I have implemented. I'm going to drop this gem, but usually on the application, a lot of landlords are not asking for enough information up front. On your application, you should be asking. All right, I'm going to pause. Hey, Lynn. Happy Monday, beautiful. On the application, unless you're using like a real estate agent application like G-Car, a realtor's application, this language is typically on those type of applications. But if you are not using a realtor's application, your application should ask, is anyone in the military? You should be asking, what type of income do you have? You should be asking for at least the last or the previous 5 years of residency. Now, don't specifically ask for landlord reference because sometimes people, check this, maybe you have an applicant, but they've never rented before. So if they never rented, they can't provide you with landlord information because they legit didn't have a landlord, but they did live somewhere. So you ask for residency verification, not landlord verification. Oh, I can't even talk today. So, but a lot of landlords are missing this information. So when it's time to go to court, landlords don't have the information. They don't know where the tenants work at because they didn't ask these questions. And when they're in the rental property, they're not required to give you that information. There's no requirement. It will save you a lot of headache and heartache. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Lynette. Absolutely, Lynn, you get it. It will save you a lot of headache and heartache. I promise you. Ask these questions up front on the application so that if you ever have to go through an eviction, you have all the information that you need. And a lot of my clients are starting to implement systems that I'm teaching them. So one of the things that some of my clients are now starting to do is add an eviction cost up front. And they can do that by law. If that is a fee, if that is your criteria, you can ask for an eviction fee as part of your process. And this is the type of stuff that I teach. This is the type of stuff that I coach landlords in my Landlord Master Strategy program. So, tenants, please know and understand that landlords are not really getting the short end of the stick if you get evicted and you skip and you don't pay them the money. I promise you that if you try to rent and you rent from a knowledgeable and educated landlord who will conduct a thorough background check, it will bite you in the butt. It will prevent you from possibly moving into one of the best rental properties that you could ever live in. And so please do yourself a great service. Avoid the eviction, okay? By any means necessary, avoid it. Save yourself headache. All right. And landlords, by any means necessary, make sure that you are stepping up your game when it comes to the background check. It is okay to conduct a background check, which is inclusive of contacting their current place of residence. So if they're currently renting, it is okay to contact that current landlord to say, hey, prospect so-and-so completed an application. Can you tell me about her or his rental history? Have they paid their rent on time? If they were to, how do I word it? If they were not moving out of your place, would you extend the lease? Would you rent to them again? You want to ask those questions, and you want to kind of read between the lines, because let me just be honest. Let me speak to the landlords for a second, especially those of you who are new. All right. You have to read between the lines and hear, but then also hear or listen for what you're not hearing. Because sometimes, and I'm guilty, I have done this. I've been managing property for well over 20 years. So I've been in the game for a while. It's not a whole lot I have not seen. Okay. I have done this. I've said it before in my webinars, in my seminars, in my coaching, in my teaching and training. I have falsified information about a bad tenant because I wanted that tenant to be gone. Okay. So I said, yes, this was a great tenant because they were so bad. I wanted to get rid of my headache. All right. So if you're one of those type of tenants, and you have a landlord that's willing to work with you and lie and give you a good reference so that you can move on, the best that you can do is thank them by making sure that the property is taken care of, by making sure that you don't owe them any money. As a matter of fact, you should pay them for dealing with your nonsense if you're one of those bad seeds, if you're one of those type of tenants, right? And that landlord gives you a good reference, just go ahead and thank them, because they can really make it hard for you and tell the new landlord, no, they didn't pay their rent. There were lease violations. There were always tenant complaints. Neighbors were always complaining. The kids were always loud. They were always smoking weed. They were always partying. There were always parked vehicles with no tags. Landlords can give a negative reference for you, which will make it hard. So this is why evictions matter. All right. Evictions do matter. It impacts the rental community as a whole, not just tenants, but it impacts landlords as well, because as a landlord, and I think I can speak for a lot of the landlords who are watching this, who are currently watching, and for those who are watching the replay, as a landlord, as a property manager, as a property owner, we want quality tenants. We don't want to have to pick from a pool of tenants that's been evicted, right? So this is why it's important, because a landlord don't have to accept you if you've been evicted. There is no law that says we must accept people who've been evicted, who have bad credit, who have a bad record. All right. So we want quality tenants. And so this is why I share this information, hopefully to help tenants as well as landlords. And we probably don't have a whole lot of questions today because I shared information that was straight to the point. Again, this is primarily for tenants, but I do want landlords to understand what you can do when it comes to conducting a background check. And so if you're a landlord and you go through the eviction process, you get rid of your tenants, good for you. Make sure that you are doing your proper checks, your proper screening for your upcoming tenants. And if you see the red flags, don't ignore red flags, because they are there for a reason. Okay. Do not ignore the warning sign. They are warning us for a reason. Now, when it comes to tenants, if you get a warning sign from a landlord, don't ignore the warning sign. And I know that sometimes people can be in desperate situations where they desperately need a roof over their head. They're willing to accept any old thing just to make ends meet, just to get by. Listen, I've been there, done that. Okay. There was a point in my life when Karissa, the landlord and tenant coach, there was a point in my life where I was homeless. Okay. I don't think anybody, maybe a few people knew that, but I was homeless for a point in my life. And everybody is not a bad seed just because they have some sort of financial situation, some sort of life event that changes their financial status, right? And so sometimes people genuinely could use help, because everybody's not bad. Everybody's not going to tear up rental property, right? And so for me, I am always mindful of that, which is why I have a heart for people, but I also recognize that it is a business. And so knowing and understanding that it is a business, I have to treat it like a business. And I want you as landlords to treat it like a business. So please do not ignore the red flags. Understand that what you see is real. And if you have a question, go ahead and ask those questions. I would rather that you ask questions, even if it's a hard question up front, but make sure, now, let me just say this. When you're asking those questions, make sure that you are not violating laws, because fair housing laws are in place. Okay. And there are testers. Testers are real. Testers are, they are there to make sure that landlords are not discriminating. They're making sure that landlords are not breaking laws, right? And so please don't find yourself as a landlord in a situation where you get sued because you're asking the wrong question. So there are some things that you can and you cannot do. So you must know the law. All right. So I hope that something that I shared today was helpful. I just wanted to give this brief, this little tip, this little segment about evictions, because I've been getting a lot of messages in my inbox as well as emails about evictions. If there's a topic that you want me to discuss in the upcoming weeks, please drop it in the comment section or please email me. My email address is carissaspan@gmail.com. That's carissaspan@gmail.com. If you have a topic that pertains to residential tenancy, whether it's for landlords or tenants, please email me and we will definitely cover that. So that's really all I wanted to share for today. My time is up and I thank you for yours. I hope that this was helpful for some of you. I hope that as a tenant, you learned something. I hope that as a landlord, you heard something that you can implement later. All right. Whether it's now or later, or maybe you know somebody who could use this information. Okay. Each and every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can find me right here on Facebook or YouTube, just sharing information, because sharing is caring. I just have a passion to help people. And that's it. That's all I have for you for today. So thank you so much for joining me today. Hope that you have a great week. Please be safe, guys. We are still, a lot of people are impacted by storms and a lot of water In a lot of places, it's devastating. People have lost their lives. Homes have been destroyed. There's a lot going on, not just with storms, the physical storms, the rain, but a lot of people are going through storms in life, right? So, my late father, bless his heart, he used to always say, it's just nice to be nice. We could have a bad day. And I promise you that I had one of the most stressful days today, but it's still nice to be nice. And you don't have to be mean. Just because you're not having a good day doesn't mean that you should project that to somebody else, right? And it also means that you don't have to accept it. So, as we are all dealing with something in our community, sometimes we have good days, sometimes we have bad days. Let's just do our best to work through it together. And if, like my father used to always say, if you don't have anything positive to say, don't say anything at all. So that's just my tidbit for now. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you will tune in next week. Claudia, you said that's right. Oh, Claudia, I appreciate that. Thank you, Landlord Coach. That's right. It's just so nice to be nice. All right, guys. So next Monday, 7:30 p.m. I'll see you right here, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. What time did I say? 7:30. Okay, I just want to make sure I said 7:30 because y'all know sometimes I might be a little off. I've come on sometimes. It was a Monday. I might have said happy Tuesday. So 7:30. I'll see you all next week at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye for now.